The wine glass trembled in Naomi's hand as Veronica's voice cut through the dinner table like a blade. "Oh, come on, Benedict. We all know why she married you. Look at her. She came from nothing and now she's sitting in a house she could never afford on her own." Naomi set the glass down carefully, her fingers steady despite the rage building in her chest. She'd heard this before. Too many times. But tonight felt different. Tonight, something inside her was about to break. Benedict's mother, Patricia, dabbed her mouth with a napkin and smiled that cold smile Naomi had come to hate. "Veronica, darling, that's not polite." "But it's true," Veronica continued, leaning back in her chair with the confidence of someone who'd never been told no. She worked at some little nonprofit making what, $40,000 a year? And suddenly she's Mrs. Benedict Whitmore, living in Riverside Heights, wearing designer clothes. "These aren't designer," Naomi said quietly. "I shop at regular stores." Veronica laughed. "Of course you do. No. But you're planning for the divorce, aren't you? Calculating how much you'll take when you leave him." Naomi's eyes moved to her husband. Benedict sat at the head of the table, cutting his steak with careful precision. He didn't look up. He never looked up during these dinners. His silence was louder than his sister's accusations. "Benedict," Naomi said, her voice steady. "Are you going to say anything?" He finally looked at her, and what she saw in his eyes made her stomach turn. Embarrassment. Not at his family's cruelty, but at her. At the fact that she dared to speak up. "Naomi, they're just talking. Don't be so sensitive." 7 words. That's all he gave her after 3 years of marriage. 7 words while his family tore her apart like wolves around wounded prey. Patricia spoke again, her tone softer but somehow more cutting. "Dear, you have to understand our concern. Benedict is going to be a vice president soon. He needs a wife who fits his position. Someone from the right background. Someone who understands our world. Someone like Simone," Veronica added with a smile. "She comes from the Whitmore family. Old money. Education. Grace. She would have been perfect for Benedict." Naomi's heart stopped. Simone. The name had come up before, always in passing, always with that same wistful tone. Benedict's old friend. The one who got away. The one his family wished he'd married instead. "That's enough," Benedict said, but his voice carried no real authority. It was the tone of someone going through motions playing a role. "Is it though?" Veronica pressed. "We're all thinking it. Simone still asks about you, Benedict. She's single now, you know. Her divorce was finalized last month." The table went quiet. Naomi could hear her own heartbeat in her ears. She looked around at the faces staring back at her. Benedict's father, Howard, who hadn't said a word all evening but nodded along with every insult. Benedict's Aunt Caroline, who clutched her pearls and looked at Naomi like she was something dirty. Even Benedict's younger brother Thomas, usually kind, avoided her eyes. "I need to use the restroom," Naomi said, standing up. Her legs felt like water, but she kept her head high. "Of course you do," Veronica muttered. "Run away. That's what you people do when confronted with truth." Naomi stopped at the doorway. She turned back, looking directly at Benedict. "You people. Did you hear that, Benedict? You people. And you say nothing." Benedict's jaw tightened. "Naomi, please. Let's not make a scene." "Make a scene?" Naomi felt something crack inside her chest. "I've sat through 3 years of these dinners. 3 years of being called a gold digger, a social climber, a nobody. 3 years of your family telling me I'm not good enough for you. And not once, Benedict, not once have you defended me." "That's not fair," he started, but she cut him off. "What's not fair is that I believed you when you said you loved me. What's not fair is that I thought marriage meant partnership. What's not fair is that I've been living a lie." She walked out of the dining room, grabbed her purse from the entrance hall and left the house. Behind her, she heard Patricia's voice. "Well, that was dramatic. Benedict, darling, you need to get control of your wife." Naomi sat in her car in the driveway, hands gripping the steering wheel. She didn't cry. She was done crying over these people. Instead, she felt something else rising inside her. Clarity. Cold, sharp clarity. She pulled out her phone and looked at her reflection in the black screen. A beautiful African-American woman with natural curls she'd learned to love despite Patricia's suggestions that she straighten her hair. Brown skin that Veronica once said made her look exotic, in a tone that made it sound like a disease. Eyes that had seen too much disrespect and accepted it for too long. Not anymore. Naomi started the car and drove away from the Whitmore mansion. She didn't know it yet, but she would never return to that house again. Tomorrow everything would change. Tomorrow she would discover just how deep the betrayal went. But tonight, driving through the city streets with the windows down and the cool air on her face, Naomi made herself a promise. She would never again let anyone make her feel small. She would never again hide who she really was. And she would never, ever let Benedict Whitmore or his family see her cry. The girl they called a gold digger was about to show them what real power looked like. Naomi didn't go home that night. Instead, she checked into a hotel downtown, a nice one that she paid for with a credit card Benedict didn't know about. She ordered room service, took a long bath, and tried to process what had happened at dinner. But sleep wouldn't come. At 2 in the morning, she found herself staring at the ceiling, thinking about Simone. The way Veronica had said her name with such affection. The way Benedict's face had changed when his sister mentioned her. She picked up her phone. Benedict had called 12 times and sent 16 messages. She didn't open any of them. Instead, she did something she'd never done before. She opened Benedict's laptop. She knew his password. He'd given it to her years ago, and logged into his email. At first, she told herself she wouldn't find anything. Benedict was boring. Predictable. He worked long hours at his investment firm and came home tired. He wasn't the type to have secrets. But then she saw the name in his inbox. Simone Bradford. And her world tilted sideways. The first email was from 3 months ago. Friendly. Casual. So good to run into you at the gallery. We should catch up properly soon. Benedict's response, absolutely. Lunch next week? Naomi's hands started shaking, but she kept reading. The emails became more frequent. Lunch turned into dinner. Dinner turned into meetings at a hotel bar. And then, 6 weeks ago, the tone changed completely. Simone, last night was incredible. I can't stop thinking about you. Benedict, same. But we need to be careful. Naomi can't find out. Not yet. Naomi's breath caught in her throat. She clicked on another email, this one from 2 weeks ago. Simone, your family loves me. Your mother practically begged me to save you from that mistake at the charity gala. Their words, not mine. Though I can't say I disagree. Benedict, they never accepted her. I knew they wouldn't. Sometimes I wonder why I even married her. The promotion is coming through next month. Once I'm VP, I'll have the income to handle the divorce without it looking bad. We can be together properly then. Naomi had to put the laptop down. She walked to the bathroom and splashed cold water on her face. In the mirror, she looked like a stranger. Her eyes were wide, her breathing shallow. She gripped the edge of the sink until her knuckles hurt. She went back to the laptop. She had to know everything. The messages got worse. There were photos. Nothing explicit, but enough. Simone at restaurants Naomi recognized, wearing jewelry Benedict had claimed was for client gifts. Screenshots of house listings in neighborhoods Benedict said were too expensive, when Naomi suggested moving. And then she found the messages that made her blood run cold. In a thread from last week, Simone had written, "Does she really think those thrift store outfits are fooling anyone? Patricia showed me a photo from your anniversary dinner. The girl looked like she was playing dress up." Benedict's response made Naomi's stomach turn. I know. It's embarrassing sometimes taking her to work events. She doesn't understand our world. She tries, but you can always tell where someone comes from. At least it won't be much longer. Simone, your family will be so relieved. Veronica told me they're planning a welcome back party for when you finally leave her. They want to make sure everyone knows the gold digger didn't win. Benedict, she's not a gold digger. She's just out of her depth. She actually thinks she married me for love. It's almost sad. Naomi closed the laptop. Her hands were steady now. The shaking had stopped. In its place was something cold and clear and absolutely certain. She picked up her phone and made a call. It rang 3 times before a sleepy voice answered. Naomi? It's 2 in the morning. What's wrong? Julian, she said to her brother. I need you to do something for me. Anything. What happened? I need a divorce attorney. The best one you know. And I need you to call father. Tell him it's time to come home. There was a pause on the other end. Julian knew what that meant. For 5 years, Naomi had been living a different life, hiding who she really was. And now she was ready to stop hiding. Are you sure? Julian asked quietly. Once we do this, there's no going back. I'm sure. Benedict thinks I'm a nobody from nowhere. His family thinks I'm a gold digger who trapped their precious son. They have no idea who I really am. And you want them to find out. I want to destroy them, Naomi said, and she meant every word. I want to take everything they think they have and show them it was never really theirs. I want Benedict to understand exactly what he threw away. And I want to do it legally, cleanly, and completely. Julian was quiet for a moment. Then he laughed. It was a sound Naomi hadn't heard in years. Dad is going to love this. He never liked Benedict anyway. Nobody in our family did. I thought if I found someone who loved me without knowing about the money, it would be real. I thought Benedict was different. He's not worth you, Naomi. He never was. I know that now. So here's what I need you to do. She spent the next hour on the phone with Julian, laying out a plan. He would contact their father, the CEO of Harrington Global Industries. He would get the family lawyers involved. And he would start looking into Benedict's company, Bradford and Associates investment firm. What Benedict didn't know, what none of them knew, was that Harrington Global had been considering acquiring several smaller investment firms. Bradford and Associates was on that list. By the time Naomi hung up the phone, the sun was starting to rise. She ordered coffee from room service and opened her own laptop, the one she kept separate from her life with Benedict. She logged into accounts she hadn't touched in 5 years. Bank accounts with balances that would make Benedict's successful salary look like pocket change. Investment portfolios that generated more in interest each month than he made in a year. Property deeds for buildings and land across 3 continents. She was Naomi Harrington, daughter of Thomas Harrington, one of the richest men in the country, heir to a business empire worth billions. And she'd walked away from all of it at 25 because she wanted to know what it felt like to be loved for herself, not her last name or her bank account. She changed her name to Naomi Chin, her mother's maiden name. She'd taken a job at a non-profit coordinating community programs. She'd moved into a small apartment and lived on her salary. And when she met Benedict at a friend's wedding, she thought she'd found what she was looking for. He was handsome and charming. He had a good job but wasn't wealthy. He seemed kind. He said he loved her smile, her laugh, the way she cared about people. He never asked about her family or her background. She thought that meant he didn't care about those things. Now she understood. He didn't ask because he'd already decided who she was. Beneath him. Lucky to have him. Naomi looked at her reflection in the laptop screen. The girl who'd been afraid to be herself was gone. The woman looking back at her now was someone different. Someone stronger. Someone who was done being treated like she was nothing. She picked up her phone and sent one message to Benedict. Don't come looking for me. You'll be hearing from my attorney. Then she blocked his number and got to work. She had a husband to divorce, a family to humble, and an empire to reclaim. The Whitmores had called her a gold digger. Soon they would understand she'd never needed their gold at all. She had her own. For the next 2 weeks, Naomi became a ghost. She moved through her life with careful precision, documenting everything while revealing nothing. Benedict didn't know where she was staying. His family had no way to contact her. And that silence, that absence drove them all crazy. She knew because Julian kept her updated. Benedict had shown up at the nonprofit where she worked, but Naomi had taken a leave of absence. He'd gone to her old apartment, the modest one-bedroom they'd kept for storage, but she'd already cleared out her belongings. He'd even filed a missing person report, which was quickly dismissed when police confirmed she'd been using her credit cards and was clearly fine. What Benedict couldn't know was that Naomi was watching. She'd hired a private investigator, one of the best in the business, and she was building a file. Photos of Benedict and Simone having dinner. Records of hotel visits. Credit card statements showing purchases that didn't match what Benedict had told her. She even had recordings perfectly legal in their state of conversations at the Whitmore mansion. Veronica talking to her mother, good riddance. Maybe now Benedict can marry someone suitable. Someone who won't embarrass us at every event. Patricia responding, I just hope she doesn't take too much in the divorce. Women like that always try to bleed men dry. Naomi listened to these recordings in her hotel room, a glass of wine in her hand, and smiled. Let them think she was scrambling. Let them think she was desperate. The truth would be so much sweeter. During those 2 weeks, she also reconnected with her family. Her father, Thomas Harrington, flew in from New York to meet with her. He was a tall man with silver hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. When he walked into her hotel suite, he pulled her into a hug that lasted a full minute. My girl, he said quietly. I've missed you. I've missed you too, Dad. He pulled back and looked at her. Julian told me everything. Are you okay? Naomi nodded. I am now. I wasn't. For a long time I wasn't. But I'm done being small. I'm done hiding. Thomas smiled. It was a smile that had intimidated boardrooms and closed billion-dollar deals. Then let's remind the world who you are. But first, let's deal with this Benedict problem. They spent hours going over strategy. Thomas had already put his legal team on it. The divorce would be airtight. Naomi had been smart. She'd never mixed her money with Benedict's. Their apartment was in his name. The cars were his. She kept everything separate, living only on her non-profit salary for 5 years. He won't get a penny from you, Thomas confirmed. But that's not what you want, is it? You want him to understand what he lost. I want him to know he had everything and threw it away, Naomi said. I want his family to understand they mocked someone who could buy their mansion with pocket change. And I want them to live with that knowledge. Revenge is a dish best served cold, Thomas said. And I think we can make this very cold indeed. Tell me about his company. Naomi pulled out her laptop. Bradford & Associates investment firm. Mid-size, about 200 employees. They manage portfolios for wealthy clients. Benedict is about to be promoted to vice president. Thomas made a phone call. 10 minutes later, he hung up and smiled at his daughter. Harrington Global just made an offer to acquire Bradford & Associates. A very generous offer. The board is meeting tomorrow to vote on it. Naomi's eyes widened. You're buying his company? I'm buying several investment firms. Bradford & Associates just moved to the top of the list. And when the acquisition goes through, we'll need someone to manage the transition. Someone smart, capable, and familiar with nonprofit work and community investment strategies. Dad, you've been hiding your talents for 5 years, Naomi. You have an MBA from Harvard. You have experience running programs and managing budgets. And you're a Harrington. It's time to come home. Naomi felt tears prick her eyes. What position? Executive Director of Operations for the investment division. You'll oversee all the firms we acquire, including Bradford & Associates. Which means effectively you'll be Benedict's boss. The irony was perfect. Too perfect. Naomi started laughing, and once she started, she couldn't stop. Her father joined in, and for the first time in weeks, Naomi felt light. When does the acquisition close? She asked. If the board approves tomorrow, which they will, we'll announce in 1 week. We'll need another week for legal processes. So 2 weeks total. And the divorce papers? Can be filed anytime you want. My recommendation? File them the same day we announce the acquisition. Maximum impact. Naomi thought about it. Benedict at his office, probably celebrating his upcoming promotion. Papers served in front of his colleagues. And then the announcement that his company had been bought by Harrington Global, and that the woman he'd called an embarrassment was now part of the executive leadership team. Perfect, she said. Let's do it. Over the next week, Naomi transformed. She moved out of the hotel and into a penthouse apartment in the city's most exclusive building. She went shopping, not at thrift stores but at the boutiques she'd avoided for 5 years. She got her hair done at a salon that required appointments 6 months in advance, but where they made room for a Harrington. She also started preparing for her new role. She met with the Harrington Global team, reviewed files on Bradford & Associates, and studied their client portfolios. She was good at this work. She'd always been good at it. She'd just been pretending she wasn't. Julian came to visit her one evening. He was younger than her by 3 years, a successful attorney with their father's sharp mind and their mother's kind heart. You look different, he said, hugging her. I feel different. I feel like myself again. Are you nervous? About seeing Benedict? Naomi thought about it. No, I'm not nervous. I'm ready. For 5 years I've been playing a role. I've been quiet and small and grateful. I let his family treat me like garbage because I thought if I just proved I was good enough, they'd accept me. But I was never the problem. They were. They're going to lose their minds when they find out. Good. Let them. I don't care what they think anymore. I care about moving forward. I care about rebuilding my life. And I care about making sure Benedict understands that I never needed him. He needed me. Julian smiled. You're scary when you're determined. I'd forgotten that. The Whitmores are about to remember it. The day before the announcement, Naomi stood in her penthouse looking out at the city. Somewhere out there, Benedict was probably with Simone planning his future. A future that didn't include Naomi. A future where he climbed the corporate ladder with a wife his family approved of. He had no idea that future was about to crumble. Naomi's phone buzzed. It was a message from her father's assistant. Board approved. Acquisition announcement tomorrow at 10 a.m. Your appointment announced at 2 p.m. Divorce papers ready for service at 9 a.m. Naomi typed back, thank you. I'm ready. She slept well that night. Better than she had in months. Because tomorrow the girl they'd called a gold digger was going to show them what she was really made of. And it wasn't gold. It was steel. 28 years ago, Naomi had been born into luxury. Her first breath was drawn in a private hospital wing. Her first home was a mansion with 12 bedrooms. Her first toy was probably worth more than most people's cars. But her parents, Thomas and Michelle Harrington, were determined she wouldn't be a spoiled princess. Michelle, especially, had grown up working class before meeting Thomas. She never forgot where she came from, and she made sure her children wouldn't either. Money is a tool, Michelle used to say. It can build or destroy. It can help or harm. What matters is what you choose to do with it. Naomi grew up understanding that privilege came with responsibility. She volunteered at soup kitchens as a teenager. She worked summer jobs even though she didn't need the money. She went to public school until high school, then to a prestigious private academy on her own merit. She was smart, brilliant even. She skipped a grade, graduated high school at 17 and went straight to college. By 23, she had an MBA from Harvard and job offers from every major company in the country. But she'd also grown up watching her parents' marriage struggle under the weight of their wealth. Thomas worked constantly. Michelle threw herself into charity work. They loved each other, but they barely saw each other. And everyone who came into their lives wanted something. Money, connections, status. Naomi watched her brother Julian date women who pretended to love him but really loved his last name. She watched family friends betray her parents for business advantages. She watched trust crumble under the pressure of too much wealth and too many expectations. So at 25, she made a decision that shocked everyone who knew her. She walked away. "I need to know what's real," she told her father. "I need to know if someone can love me for who I am, not what I have. I need to know if I can make a difference without the Harrington name opening doors for me." Thomas had been furious at first. "You're throwing away everything we've built. Everything we've given you." "I'm not throwing it away. I'm setting it aside. For a while. I need this, Dad. Please understand." It was her mother who convinced him. Michelle held Naomi's face in her hands and said, "You have my blessing. Go find out who you are without all of this. But promise me something. Promise me you'll come back when you're ready. This empire needs someone with your heart running it someday." Naomi had promised. She changed her name legally to Naomi Chin. She'd taken just enough money to get started a small trust fund that would seem substantial to most people but was nothing compared to her real inheritance. She'd moved across the country and started over. For 5 years she'd lived simply. She worked at the nonprofit, coordinating after-school programs and community events. She lived in a modest apartment. She made friends who had no idea who her family was. And she loved it. Then she met Benedict at a mutual friend's wedding. He was charming and attentive. He had a good job but wasn't wealthy. He seemed different from the men who'd pursued her before. He never asked about her family or her background. He seemed content with who she was. They dated for a year before he proposed. Naomi said yes, believing she'd finally found what she was looking for. Real love. A partner who wanted her, not her money. The wedding was small. Naomi told Benedict her family was complicated and distant. She invited Julian, who came under a different last name, claiming to be a friend from college. Her parents watched via a private video stream, hearts breaking that they couldn't be there in person. "Are you sure about this?" Michelle had asked the night before the wedding. "We've had him investigated, Naomi. He's not who you think he is. Everyone deserves privacy, Mom. I don't want to know what an investigation says. I want to trust my own judgment. Your judgment is clouded by hope. Be careful." Naomi should have listened. Within months of the marriage, she met Benedict's family. And everything started to unravel. They looked down on her from the start. Her job, her clothes, her background. Benedict's mother actually asked during their first meeting, "Where exactly are your people from, dear?" The way she said people made Naomi's skin crawl. But Naomi told herself it was a test. If she could endure this, if Benedict defended her, then it proved their love was real. So she endured. For 3 years she endured. And Benedict never defended her. Not once. Now, sitting in her penthouse the night before everything changed, Naomi thought about her mother's warning. Michelle had passed away 2 years ago, a heart attack that came without warning. Naomi had flown home for the funeral, telling Benedict it was for a friend. She'd stood at her mother's grave surrounded by hundreds of mourners who knew Michelle Harrington as a philanthropist and businesswoman, and she'd cried for more than just her mother. She'd cried for the time she'd wasted. For the family she'd shut out. For the life she'd put on hold chasing a fantasy. "I'm sorry, Mom," she'd whispered at the grave. "You were right. You were right about everything." Now, Naomi pulled out her phone and looked at a photo of her mother. Michelle Harrington had been beautiful, strong, and fierce. She'd built a life on her own terms. and she'd raised a daughter to do the same. "I'm coming home," Naomi said to the photo. "I'm finally coming home." She went to her closet and pulled out an outfit for tomorrow. A tailored suit in deep navy blue, professional and powerful. Shoes that cost more than Benedict spent on clothes in a year. Jewelry that had been her mother's real diamonds, not the costume pieces she'd worn as Naomi Chen. Tomorrow she would walk into that office as Naomi Harrington. And everyone who'd dismissed her, mocked her, or underestimated her would finally understand their mistake. She thought about Benedict, probably lying in bed next to Simone right now, planning his promotion celebration. She thought about Veronica, smug and satisfied that the gold digger had run away. She thought about Patricia, probably already planning how to welcome Simone into the family properly. They had no idea what was coming. Naomi smiled at her reflection. The girl who'd been afraid to be herself was gone. The woman who'd hidden her light to make others comfortable had disappeared. In their place stood someone who'd earned every bit of power she was about to reclaim. "They wanted to know where my people are from?" Naomi said to the empty room. "Tomorrow they'll find out." She turned off the lights and went to bed. Tomorrow would be the first day of her new life. Or rather, the first day of her real life finally beginning again. The Harrington Empire was about to get its heir back. And Benedict Whitmore was about to learn the most expensive lesson of his life. You don't betray a queen and expect to keep your kingdom. The morning of the announcement, Naomi woke up at 5 a.m. She didn't need an alarm. Her body knew this was the day everything changed. She went for a run along the river, her feet pounding the pavement in a steady rhythm. The city was just waking up. Delivery trucks rumbled past. Early morning workers hurried to catch buses. Somewhere out there, Benedict was probably still sleeping, completely unaware that his world was about to shatter. Back at the penthouse, Naomi showered and dressed with care. The navy suit fit perfectly. Her hair was pulled back in a sleek style that was all business. Her mother's diamond earrings caught the light. She looked at herself in the mirror and barely recognized the woman staring back. No, that wasn't true. She recognized her. This was who she'd always been under the disguise. This was Naomi Harrington. At 8 a.m. her phone rang. It was her father. "Good morning, sweetheart. How are you feeling?" "Ready?" Naomi said. "More than ready. The papers are being served at 9. The acquisition announcement is at 10. Your appointment is at 2. By the end of today, everyone will know who you are." "Good. Naomi," Thomas said carefully. "Once we do this, there's no going back. Your privacy will be gone. Everyone will know you're a Harrington. The press will be interested. People will treat you differently. They already treat me differently, Dad. They treat me like I'm nothing. At least this way, I'm controlling the narrative. Just making sure you're certain. I've never been more certain of anything in my life." At 8:30, Julian arrived at her penthouse with coffee and bagels. "Big day," he said, handing her a cup. "Huge day," Naomi agreed. "I have something for you." Julian pulled out a folder. "The final divorce papers. Signed by you, ready for service. And a little gift, a complete financial analysis of what Benedict thought he was getting in a divorce versus what he's actually getting." Naomi opened the folder. The analysis was brutal. Benedict had clearly been planning for this. He'd been documenting expenses, probably thinking he could claim Naomi owed him for maintaining her lifestyle. He'd even consulted with a divorce attorney about asset division. What he hadn't realized was that all the assets were his. The apartment, the cars, the furniture. Naomi had purchased nothing in her own name. She'd lived like a guest in his life. "He gets nothing," Julian said, "because there's nothing to get from Naomi Chen. That identity owns nothing but a 12-year-old Honda and a savings account with $40,000. And Naomi Harrington? Naomi Harrington owns property in 6 states, has investment accounts worth hundreds of millions, and is about to become one of the highest-paid executives at Harrington Global. But Benedict isn't married to Naomi Harrington. He's married to Naomi Chen. 2 different people, legally speaking." Naomi smiled. "He's going to lose his mind. He's going to lose a lot more than that. Dad's already spoken to the board at Bradford and Associates. Benedict's promotion is being postponed pending the acquisition transition. There are also some questions about his expense reports. Apparently, those dinners with Simone were billed as client meetings." "Ethics violation," Naomi said. "Major ethics violation. He could lose his job entirely." At exactly 9 a.m., Naomi's phone buzzed. A text from the process server. Papers delivered to Benedict Whitmore at his office. Signed and witnessed. Naomi imagined the scene. Benedict at his desk, probably reviewing presentations for his promotion announcement. A stranger walking in with an envelope. The confusion on his face as he opened it and saw the word divorce in bold letters across the top. She almost felt sorry for him. Almost. At 9:45, Naomi and Julian left for the Harrington Global headquarters. It was a massive building downtown, all glass and steel, with the Harrington name in letters 3 feet tall across the front. Naomi hadn't been here in 5 years. Walking through the doors felt like coming home. Employees nodded at her as she passed. Some looked confused. Who was this woman walking with such confidence through their building? Others, the ones who'd been there longer, looked shocked. They recognized her. Is that, she heard someone whisper. It can't be. She hasn't been here in years. That's Naomi Harrington, Thomas's daughter. By the time she reached the executive floor, word had spread. Her father's assistant, Gloria, who'd known Naomi since she was a child, burst into tears. Oh honey. Welcome home. Naomi hugged her. It's good to be back, Gloria. At 10 a.m. sharp, Thomas Harrington stood in the main conference room before a gathering of press, employees, and investors. Naomi watched from the side, Julian beside her. Good morning, Thomas began. Thank you all for coming. Today, I'm pleased to announce that Harrington Global Industries has successfully acquired Bradford and Associates investment firm, along with 3 other mid-size investment companies. This acquisition strengthens our position in the financial services sector and allows us to better serve our clients. The press asked questions. Financial reporters scribbled notes. And somewhere across town at Bradford and Associates, employees were probably scrambling to understand what this meant for their jobs. What it meant for Benedict was about to become very clear. At 2 p.m. there was another press conference. This time Thomas stood with Naomi beside him. I'd also like to make a personnel announcement, Thomas said. Effective immediately, my daughter, Naomi Harrington, will be joining Harrington Global as Executive Director of Operations for our investment division. Naomi has been away from the company for several years, gaining experience in nonprofit management and community development. She brings a unique perspective and a deep commitment to ethical business practices. She'll be overseeing the integration of our newly acquired firms, including Bradford and Associates. Cameras flashed. Reporters shouted questions. And Naomi stepped forward with a smile that was pure confidence. Thank you all for being here, she said. I'm excited to return to Harrington Global and to bring my experience to this new role. Our goal is to ensure these acquisitions benefit not just our shareholders, but also the employees and clients of these firms. We believe in doing business with integrity, transparency, and respect for everyone involved. A reporter raised her hand. Miss Harrington, you've been out of the public eye for years. Where have you been? Living my life, Naomi said simply. Learning, growing, understanding the world outside of corporate boardrooms. That experience will inform everything I do in this role. Another reporter, will you be working directly with the Bradford and Associates team? Absolutely. I'll be visiting their office next week to meet with employees and leadership. I believe in hands-on management and building relationships with the people who make these companies successful. What she couldn't say with cameras rolling, was that she couldn't wait to see Benedict's face when she walked into his office as his boss. The press conference ended. Naomi shook hands with investors and executives. Everyone was congratulating her, welcoming her back. And through it all, her phone kept buzzing with messages. Benedict, what the hell is going on? Did you know about this? Benedict, you're a Harrington? How is that possible? Benedict, call me. Now. We need to talk. Benedict, the divorce papers say you have no assets. That's a lie. You're going to pay for this. Benedict, answer your phone, Naomi. She didn't answer. She didn't even read them all. Instead, she handed her phone to Julian. Block him, she said. Block his whole family. I don't want to hear from any of them. With pleasure, Julian said, fingers flying over the screen. Done. They're all blocked. They have no way to contact you now except through attorneys. Perfect. That evening, Naomi sat in her father's office, looking out at the city. Thomas poured them both a drink. You did well today, he said. Thank you. Felt good. It felt right. What happens next? Next, I do my job. I go to Bradford and Associates. I meet with the team. I show them I'm qualified and capable. And if I happen to run into Benedict, well, that's just business. Thomas smiled. You're your mother's daughter. She would have loved this. She would have told me I was being too nice. They both laughed. Outside, the city lights twinkled. And somewhere in that city, Benedict was probably losing his mind, trying to understand how his poor, nobody wife was actually a billionaire heiress who now controlled his career. Naomi raised her glass. To new beginnings. To getting what you deserve, Thomas countered. They drank, and Naomi felt a weight lift off her shoulders. For 3 years she'd been carrying the burden of being less than she was. Of making herself small so Benedict could feel big. Of accepting disrespect and calling it love. That burden was gone now. And in its place was power. Real power. The kind that came from knowing your own worth and refusing to settle for less. The Whitmores thought they'd won when Naomi disappeared. They thought the gold digger had run away in shame. They had no idea the queen had just reclaimed her throne. The day after the announcement, all hell broke loose in Benedict's world. Naomi knew this because Julian was keeping her updated. He'd made friends with some of the attorneys at Bradford and Associates, and the gossip was flowing freely. Benedict didn't show up to work today, Julian reported over breakfast. Apparently he called in sick. But 3 people saw him at a bar downtown at 9 a.m., and he was already drunk. And Simone? Naomi asked. In the office trying to pretend everything is fine. But HR called her in for a meeting about those expense reports. Turns out billing personal dinners as business expenses is a fireable offense, especially during an acquisition when everything is under review. Naomi nodded, sipping her coffee. She felt no sympathy. These were natural consequences of their own choices. Her phone rang. It was Gloria from her father's office. Naomi, there's a woman here demanding to see you. Patricia Whitmore. She says she's your mother-in-law and it's urgent. Naomi's eyebrows rose. Tell her I'm not available. I already did. She won't leave. She's making a scene in the lobby. Naomi sighed. Call security. Have them escort her out. And Gloria, make sure there's a record of this. I want documentation of every attempt they make to contact me. Understood. Julian looked at her. Patricia is here? Was here. Security is removing her. I told you they'd lose their minds. An hour later, Veronica tried to visit Naomi's penthouse. The doorman, following strict instructions, didn't let her up. She tried to wait in the lobby, but after 2 hours, building security escorted her out as well. Then came the emails. Dozens of them from Benedict's entire family. All blocked, but Julian was monitoring them through a separate account. Patricia, Naomi, we need to talk about this misunderstanding. I'm sure we can work this out as a family. Veronica, you lied to all of us. You pretended to be poor. How dare you make fools of us? But we can move past this if you'll just talk to Benedict. Howard, Benedict's father, young lady, this is unacceptable behavior. You owe my son an explanation and a fair settlement. Call me immediately. Even Thomas, Benedict's brother, sent a message. Naomi, I'm sorry for how my family treated you. I should have said something. But please talk to Benedict. He's falling apart. Naomi read the messages with Julian and felt absolutely nothing. No anger. No sadness. Just a cold, clear certainty that she'd made the right choice. They still don't get it, she said. They think they can demand explanations. They think I owe them something. They think the world revolves around them, Julian said. They're about to learn it doesn't. On the 3rd day after the announcement, Naomi visited Bradford and Associates for the first time as Executive Director of Operations. She wore a charcoal gray suit and her mother's pearls. Her hair was styled perfectly. She looked every inch the powerful executive she was. The Bradford and Associates building was nice but not spectacular. 15 floors in a decent part of town. The lobby had the firm's name in gold letters, but Naomi knew that would be changing soon. It would be Bradford and Associates, a Harrington global company. She was greeted by the managing director, Philip Bradford himself. He was a man in his 60s, distinguished and nervous. Miss Harrington, he said, shaking her hand. Welcome. We're honored to have you here. Thank you, Mr. Bradford. I'm looking forward to working with your team. Shall we start with a tour? As they walked through the office, employees stared. Naomi could hear whispers following her. That's her. That's Benedict's wife. Ex-wife, you mean? Did you see the divorce papers? I heard she's worth billions. Billions. And he cheated on her. He's such an idiot. He had everything and threw it away. Naomi kept her face neutral, professional. She shook hands with department heads, asked intelligent questions about their work and took notes. She was friendly but not familiar. Competent but not cold. And then, as they passed a corner office, she saw him. Benedict stood at his desk, staring at his computer screen. He looked terrible. His suit was wrinkled. His tie was crooked. His eyes were red and swollen. When he looked up and saw her, the color drained from his face. "Naomi," he said, stepping toward the door. Philip Bradford stepped between them smoothly. "Mr. Whitmore, Ms. Harrington is conducting a tour. Please return to your work." "But she's my wife." "I'm not your wife," Naomi said calmly. "I'm your director. And you should address me as Ms. Harrington in a professional setting." Benedict looked like she'd slapped him. "Naomi, please. We need to talk. You can't just—" "Actually, I can. I'm very busy, Mr. Whitmore. If you need to discuss something work-related, please schedule a meeting through my assistant." "Work-related? Our marriage is falling apart and you want me to schedule a meeting?" Philip Bradford stepped forward. "Mr. Whitmore, this is inappropriate. Return to your office now or I'll have to call security." Benedict looked at Naomi like he was seeing a stranger. "Who are you? You're not the woman I married." "You're absolutely right," Naomi said. "The woman you married was playing a role. Pretending to be less than she was so you could feel important. That woman is gone. This is who I really am." She turned and walked away, Philip Bradford following. Behind her, she heard Benedict say something, but she didn't care enough to listen. The tour continued. Naomi met with the HR director, the chief financial officer, and several senior portfolio managers. She was impressed with most of them. They were smart, dedicated, and clearly good at their jobs. In a conference room with the leadership team, Naomi addressed them directly. "I know this acquisition has caused uncertainty," she said. "I know you're worried about your jobs and the future of this firm. Let me be clear about my priorities. I'm here to make this company stronger, not to destroy it. I believe in the work you do. I believe in ethical business practices and treating clients with respect. If you share those values, you have nothing to worry about." She paused, letting that sink in. "However, I also believe in accountability. During our review process, we've discovered some irregularities in expense reports and client billing. These issues will be investigated thoroughly. Anyone found to have violated company policy or acted unethically will face consequences, up to and including termination." Several people shifted uncomfortably. Philip Bradford nodded approvingly. "Are there any questions?" Naomi asked. A woman raised her hand. "Will there be layoffs?" "Not planned currently. But I won't lie to you, if we find departments that aren't performing or positions that are redundant, we'll make changes. My goal is to keep this company healthy and growing. Sometimes that means difficult decisions." Another question: "What about leadership changes?" "Mr. Bradford will remain as managing director for the next 6 months, helping with the transition. After that, we'll evaluate based on performance and fit with Harrington Global's culture. I'll be here regularly, working closely with all departments." The meeting lasted an hour. By the end, Naomi felt she'd established herself as someone to be taken seriously. She wasn't just the boss's daughter playing executive. She knew what she was doing. As she was leaving, Philip Bradford walked her to her car. "That was impressive, Ms. Harrington. You have a gift for leadership." "Thank you. I learned from the best." "About Benedict Whitmore," Philip said carefully. "His position here is complicated now. The expense report issues are serious. And his personal situation is affecting his work. I'm not vindictive, Mr. Bradford. I don't want to destroy anyone's career. But I also won't protect someone who's violated company policy. Investigate the expense reports. If he's guilty of fraud, handle it accordingly. If he's cleared, then judge him on his work performance. My personal history with him doesn't factor into business decisions." Philip looked relieved. "That's very professional of you." "I am a professional. That's what they all seem to have forgotten." Driving back to her penthouse, Naomi felt good, strong, in control. She'd faced Benedict and felt nothing but indifference. The man who'd once made her heart race now inspired nothing but a mild distaste. That evening, Julian came over with takeout and wine. "I heard about your visit to Bradford and Associates," he said. "The whole office is talking about it." "Let them talk. Benedict tried to follow you to the parking garage. Security stopped him." Naomi sighed. "He needs to accept it's over." "He will. Eventually. Right now he's in denial. He lost his wife, his promotion is on hold, his affair is under investigation, and his family is freaking out. It's a lot for someone with his ego to process. Not my problem anymore." "No," Julian agreed. "Not your problem. So what's next?" Naomi smiled. "Next, I do my job. I prove I earned this position. And I build a life that's actually mine, not some pretend version to make other people comfortable. They ate dinner talking about work, about family, about everything except Benedict and the Whitmores. For the first time in 3 years, Naomi felt free. The chains of that marriage, that life were broken. She was Naomi Harrington. She always had been. And now everyone knew it. The revenge wasn't about destroying Benedict. It was about reclaiming herself. About standing tall and refusing to be diminished ever again. And in the end, that was the sweetest victory of all. The company-wide town hall meeting was scheduled for 10 a.m. on Monday morning. Every employee at Bradford & Associates was required to attend, either in person in the main conference room or via video link from other floors. Naomi arrived early, dressed in a burgundy suit that commanded attention without being flashy. She'd learned from her mother that power dressing wasn't about showing off, it was about projecting confidence and competence. Philip Bradford greeted her at the door. "Everyone's nervous," he told her quietly. "Acquisitions always make people worried about their jobs." "Then let's reassure them," Naomi said. The room was packed. Naomi recognized many faces from her tour last week. She also saw Benedict sitting in the back row, his jaw tight and his eyes fixed on her. Simone sat 3 rows ahead of him, looking pale and anxious. At exactly 10 a.m., Philip stepped to the podium. "Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here. As you all know, Bradford & Associates has been acquired by Harrington Global Industries. This is an exciting opportunity for our firm to grow and expand our services. Today, I'd like to introduce you to Naomi Harrington, Executive Director of Operations for Harrington Global's Investment Division. She'll be overseeing our integration and working closely with our team going forward." "Ms. Harrington?" Naomi stood and walked to the podium. The room was silent. She could feel 200 pairs of eyes on her. She took a breath and began. "Good morning. I know many of you are worried right now. Acquisitions are always unsettling. You're wondering if you'll still have a job next month. You're wondering if everything you've built here will be dismantled. I understand those concerns and I want to address them directly." She clicked to the first slide of her presentation. It showed growth projections and expansion plans. Harrington Global acquired Bradford & Associates because we believe in this company's potential. We see a strong team, excellent client relationships, and room for growth. Our goal isn't to tear this apart, it's to make it stronger. She went through the presentation, outlining integration plans, new resources that would be available, and opportunities for advancement. She was clear, concise, and confident. This was what she'd been trained for her whole life. "I want to address something else," Naomi said, clicking to a slide titled, "Our Values." Harrington Global is built on 3 principles: integrity, excellence, and respect. We expect these values from every employee regardless of position. Which brings me to a difficult topic. The room tensed. Naomi saw Benedict sit up straighter. "During our acquisition review, we discovered irregularities in expense reporting. Multiple employees were billing personal expenses as business costs. This is fraud. It's unethical. And it stops now." She paused, letting that sink in. "We've completed our investigation. Several employees will be meeting with HR today. Consequences will range from written warnings to termination, depending on the severity of the violations. I want to be clear, this isn't about punishment. It's about establishing standards. Moving forward, all expenses will be reviewed carefully. All client meetings will be documented. And any violation of ethics policies will result in immediate disciplinary action." Someone raised a hand. Naomi nodded at them. "Will these firings affect our teams? Will we have to cover for people who are let go?" "That's a fair question. The answer is yes, temporarily. But we're also opening several new positions. We're hiring a compliance officer, expanding the HR team, and adding junior analysts. If you're interested in advancement opportunities, talk to your manager." Another hand. "What about the promotion announcements that were planned?" Naomi glanced at Philip, who nodded. "All promotions are on hold pending the integration. We'll be reviewing all positions and qualifications over the next month. Promotions will be based on merit, performance, and alignment with our company values. Nothing else." She saw Benedict's face go rigid. He'd been planning on that vice president title. It had been practically guaranteed. Now it was gone. The questions continued for 20 minutes. Naomi answered each one honestly and directly. She wasn't warm and fuzzy, but she was fair. By the end, she could see the tension in the room easing. "One more thing," Naomi said. "Some of you know that I have a personal connection to this company. My soon-to-be ex-husband works here. I want to address that directly because I know you're all wondering about it." The room went completely silent. Even the video feed seemed to freeze. Benedict Whitmore and I are getting divorced. That's a personal matter that has nothing to do with my professional responsibilities here. I will not treat him differently than any other employee. He will not receive special consideration, positive or negative, because of our history. He'll be judged on his work performance and professional conduct, just like everyone else. She looked directly at Benedict as she said it. His face was red, his hands clenched into fists. I believe in separating personal and professional matters. I expect everyone in this company to do the same. If anyone has concerns about conflicts of interest, my door is always open. But I assure you my decisions here will be based solely on what's best for this company and its employees. She closed her laptop and smiled at the room. Thank you all for your time. I look forward to working with you. If you have questions or concerns, please don't hesitate to reach out. We're all in this together. The meeting ended. Employees filed out, talking in low voices. Naomi stayed at the front, answering individual questions. Several people approached to thank her for her transparency. And then Benedict was there, pushing through the crowd. Naomi, we need to talk. Now. Mr. Whitmore, if you have professional concerns, please schedule. Stop with the Mr. Whitmore crap. I'm your husband. You're my soon-to-be ex-husband. And you're making a scene in your workplace. I suggest you go back to your office. You can't do this. You can't just walk in here and destroy my life. Naomi looked at him calmly. I didn't destroy your life, Benedict. You did that all on your own when you decided to cheat on me and mock me behind my back. I'm just living mine. You lied to me. You pretended to be someone you weren't. No, Naomi said, her voice sharp now. I lived simply to see if you could love me for who I am, not what I have. And you failed that test spectacularly. You didn't just fail to love me, you betrayed me. You cheated on me. You let your family treat me like garbage. And you planned to divorce me once you got your promotion. Benedict's face went pale. How did you? I read your emails. I saw everything. Every message with Simone. Every time you called me an embarrassment. Every plan you made to leave me. So don't stand here acting like you're the victim. You made your choices. Now live with them. She walked past him, her head high. Philip Bradford and 2 security guards stepped between her and Benedict, forming a protective barrier. In the elevator down to the parking garage, Naomi finally let herself breathe. Her hands were shaking, but not from fear or sadness. From anger. From the release of 3 years of holding everything in. Her phone rang. It was Julian. I just got a call from HR at Bradford and Associates, he said. Benedict was escorted out of the building. Apparently, he tried to follow you to the parking garage and became belligerent with security. Is he fired? Suspended, pending investigation. The expense report fraud is clear. He billed over $50,000 in personal expenses as business costs. That's criminal, Naomi. He could face charges. Naomi closed her eyes. She didn't want Benedict to go to jail. She just wanted him gone from her life. Let HR handle it. I meant what I said in there. I'm not treating him differently because of our history. If he broke the law, he faces the consequences. That's not about me. That's about him. You're stronger than I would be, Julian said. I'd want to throw him in prison myself. I don't want revenge anymore, Julian. I just want peace. I want to do my job, rebuild my life, and move forward. Benedict is his own worst enemy. I don't need to do anything. He's destroying himself just fine. That afternoon, Naomi had a meeting with Simone. It wasn't personal. Simone was a portfolio manager, and Naomi was reviewing all senior staff. But the timing was interesting. Simone walked into Naomi's temporary office looking like she wanted to disappear. Her usual confidence was gone. She couldn't meet Naomi's eyes. Ms. Bradford, Naomi said formally. Please sit down. It's Ms. Harrington now, isn't it? Simone said quietly. I didn't know. None of us knew. That was the point. I wanted to see who people really were when they thought I was nobody. Simone flinched. I'm sorry. For everything. I didn't know you were married when Benedict and I first. She stopped, realizing she was making it worse. You knew, Naomi said calmly. You knew he was married. You just didn't care because you thought I was beneath him. Beneath both of you. That's not. Don't lie to me. I read the messages. I saw what you said about me. About my clothes, my job, my background. You and Benedict both thought I was lucky to have him. You thought you were doing him a favor. Simone's eyes filled with tears. I'm sorry. I don't want your apology, Ms. Bradford. I want your resignation. Simone's head snapped up. What? You violated company ethics policies. You engaged in an affair that created a conflict of interest. You billed personal expenses as business costs. And you created a hostile work environment by discussing another employee's personal life inappropriately. Any one of those is grounds for termination. All of them together? You should be grateful I'm giving you the option to resign. This is because of Benedict. This is because of you, Naomi said firmly. Your choices. Your actions. Benedict will face his own consequences. But you don't get to avoid yours just because you're not the only one who did wrong. Simone stood up, her face red. You're vindictive. You're punishing me because I was with your husband. No, Naomi said. I'm enforcing company policy. If you'd like to challenge this decision, you're welcome to take it up with HR and our legal department. But I think you'll find they agree with my assessment. You have until end of business today to submit your resignation. Otherwise, you'll be terminated tomorrow morning. Simone left without another word. Naomi sat back in her chair, feeling tired but satisfied. She wasn't being cruel. She was being fair. Simone had broken rules. She faced consequences. That wasn't revenge, that was justice. By the end of the day, Simone's resignation was on Naomi's desk. Benedict was officially suspended. And the entire company understood that Naomi Harrington wasn't someone to be underestimated. She drove home as the sun set, thinking about how much had changed in just 2 weeks. 2 weeks ago, she was Naomi Chin, the wife nobody respected. Now she was Naomi Harrington, a powerful executive reclaiming her life. The girl they called a gold digger had shown them who she really was. And they would never forget it. The weeks following the revelation were chaotic in ways Naomi hadn't expected. She'd thought exposing Benedict and reclaiming her identity would bring closure. Instead, it opened a whole new chapter of complications. The press was the worst part. Someone at Bradford and Associates had leaked the story, and now every business publication wanted an interview. Billionaire heiress lived in disguise. Secret identity, how Naomi Harrington fooled everyone. From gold digger to golden child, the real story. Naomi refused every interview. She released one statement through Harrington Global's PR team. My personal life is private. I'm focused on my work and my responsibilities to our companies and employees. I appreciate respect for my privacy during this transition. It didn't help much. Reporters camped outside her building. Photographers tried to follow her to work. Her social media accounts, dormant for years, suddenly had thousands of new followers. You're famous, Julian said, scrolling through his phone while sitting in her penthouse. There are Reddit threads about you. TikToks. Someone made a whole video timeline of your disappearance from society. That's disturbing, Naomi said. That's the internet. But hey, most people are on your side. They're calling Benedict an idiot for cheating on you. Simone is getting destroyed in the comments too. Naomi didn't feel good about that. She hadn't wanted a public spectacle. She'd wanted dignity and closure. But Benedict wasn't giving her closure. Despite being blocked on every platform, he found ways to try to reach her. He sent messages through mutual acquaintances. He showed up at the Harrington Global building and was turned away by security. He even tried to contact her father. Thomas Harrington's response was swift and brutal. He had his attorneys send Benedict a cease and desist letter threatening a restraining order if he continued the harassment. That finally seemed to work. The messages stopped. But the damage to Benedict's life was accelerating. 2 weeks after the revelation, Benedict was officially fired from Bradford and Associates. The investigation into his expense reports had uncovered not just the $50,000 in fraudulent billing, but also evidence that he'd been accepting kickbacks from vendors. It was a mess that could result in criminal charges. Naomi learned about it from Philip Bradford during a routine meeting. I thought you should know, Philip said. We've referred the case to law enforcement. The evidence is clear. He'll likely face fraud charges. Naomi felt a twist in her stomach. I didn't want this. I know you didn't. But this isn't about you. Benedict made these choices long before you revealed your identity. We would have discovered this eventually during any routine audit. The acquisition just accelerated the timeline. Still, Naomi felt uneasy. She'd wanted Benedict to understand what he'd lost. She'd wanted him to face professional consequences for his affair. But prison? That seemed extreme. Will he definitely go to jail? She asked. That's up to prosecutors and judges. But he defrauded the company of over $70,000. That's a felony. And with the evidence we have, his attorney will probably recommend a plea deal. Naomi nodded slowly. Keep me informed, please. Not because I want to help him, she added quickly, but because I want to know what's happening. Of course. The Whitmore family's reaction to all of this was predictably theatrical. Patricia hired attorneys and tried to sue Naomi for emotional distress and fraud by omission. The case was laughed out of the lawyer's office. You can't sue someone for not telling you they're rich. Veronica went on social media with a long rant about how Naomi had trapped Benedict and destroyed their family. The post went viral, but not in the way Veronica hoped. People roasted her for defending a cheater and mocking someone for being poor. She literally called you a gold digger for 3 years, one comment read. And now she's mad because you're not poor? Make it make sense. Howard, Benedict's father, tried a different approach. He called Thomas Harrington directly, demanding a meeting to resolve this situation like gentlemen. Thomas agreed to meet him. Naomi insisted on being there. They met in a conference room at Harrington Global. Howard arrived with 2 attorneys. Thomas had 3. Naomi sat next to her father, calm and professional. Mr. Harrington, Howard began. I think we can all agree this situation has gotten out of hand. My son made mistakes, yes. But he doesn't deserve to have his entire life destroyed. Your son cheated on my daughter, Thomas said coldly. He mocked her. He conspired with his mistress to divorce her once he secured a promotion. And he committed fraud at his company. Which part of that doesn't deserve consequences? Naomi lied about who she was. Naomi lived modestly to see if she could find genuine love, Thomas interrupted. That's not a crime. It's not even unethical. She used a legal name change, earned her own money, and built a life. Your son and your family judged her for not being wealthy enough. The irony that she's wealthier than all of you combined is poetic justice. Howard's face turned red. We want the criminal charges dropped. I don't control the district attorney's office, Thomas said. Neither does Naomi. If Benedict broke the law, he'll face legal consequences. That's not our decision. You could have the company decline to press charges. We could, Thomas agreed. But we won't. Benedict stole money. He committed fraud. Why should we protect him from the consequences of his own actions? Because my daughter didn't marry him for him to end up in prison, one of Howard's attorneys said. She married him in good faith. This vindictiveness is unbecoming. Naomi finally spoke. I'm not being vindictive. I haven't done anything except divorce him and do my job. Benedict committed crimes before he even knew who I really was. Those crimes were discovered during a routine acquisition review. I didn't plant evidence. I didn't make him steal money. He did that all by himself. You revealed your identity specifically to humiliate him, Howard argued. I revealed my identity to stop living a lie, Naomi said firmly. I was tired of being treated like I was less than human because I didn't come from money. I was tired of your family mocking me. I was tired of Benedict cheating on me while planning to divorce me for someone you all like better. So yes, I took my life back. If Benedict feels humiliated, good. He should. But that's not the same as me causing his legal problems. The meeting went in circles for another hour. Eventually, Howard and his attorneys left with nothing. No agreements. No concessions. Just the understanding that the Harrington family would not be helping Benedict avoid justice. After they left, Thomas hugged Naomi. You okay? I'm tired, she admitted. I thought this would be over by now. I thought I'd feel free. Instead, it feels like I'm still tied to him because of all this drama. It will end, Thomas promised. Soon. Benedict will either take a plea deal or go to trial. Either way, there will be resolution. And then you can truly move on. I hope so. That evening, Naomi sat in her penthouse with a glass of wine, looking out at the city. She thought about the past 3 years, about the woman she'd been pretending to be, and the woman she really was. She'd wanted to find love without the complications of wealth. Instead, she'd found a man who would have loved her more if she'd been honest about her money. The irony was brutal. Her phone rang. A known number. She almost didn't answer, but something made her pick up. Hello? Naomi. It was Benedict's voice. He sounded broken. Please don't hang up. She should have. She knew she should have. But something in his tone made her stay on the line. How did you get this number? I have my ways. Please just listen. 5 minutes. That's all I'm asking. Naomi sighed. Fine. 5 minutes. I'm sorry. For everything. I was an idiot. I got caught up in what my family wanted, what society expected. I forgot that I actually loved you. I forgot why I married you in the first place. Did you love me? Naomi asked. Really? Because your messages with Simone said otherwise. Benedict was quiet for a moment. I convinced myself I didn't. It was easier that way. Easier to justify the affair, to plan the divorce. But now, seeing what I've lost, I realize I was lying to myself. That's not my problem anymore, Benedict. I know. I know I messed up. I know you'll never take me back. I just needed you to hear me say I'm sorry. And that I wish I'd been different. Better. Worthy of you. Naomi felt tears prick her eyes, but they weren't tears of sadness. They were tears of release. This was the closure she'd needed. Not Benedict begging to get back together, but Benedict finally understanding what he'd thrown away. I appreciate you saying that, Naomi said quietly. But it doesn't change anything. We're done. We were done the moment you cheated on me. Maybe before that, when you stopped defending me to your family. This isn't about the money or the identity reveal. It's about respect. And you never really respected me. I know. You're right. The divorce will be final soon. I hope you figure out your legal situation. I really do. Not because I care about you anymore, but because I don't wish prison on anyone. But Benedict, after this call, don't contact me again. Move on with your life. Let me move on with mine. Okay, he said, his voice thick. Goodbye, Naomi. I really am sorry. Goodbye, Benedict. She hung up and let the tears fall. Not for Benedict, not for their marriage, but for the time she'd lost believing in something that was never real. But with those tears came relief. This chapter was closing. Finally, truly closing. Tomorrow she would wake up as Naomi Harrington, free from her past and ready for her future. And that future looked bright. 3 months after the revelation, Naomi's life had settled into a new normal. The press had mostly moved on to other stories. The divorce was finalized, a quick, clean split since there were no shared assets to divide. And Benedict had taken a plea deal that resulted in probation, restitution, and community service instead of prison time. Naomi was relieved about that last part. She hadn't wanted Benedict to go to jail. She just wanted him to face consequences. And he had. His career in investment management was over. His reputation was destroyed. His family's social standing had taken a massive hit. The Whitmores had tried one last time to salvage their image. They'd released a statement claiming they'd been deceived by Naomi and that they'd always welcomed her, despite her humble background. The statement was so tone-deaf that it became a trending topic on social media, with people mocking them for days. After that, they finally went quiet. Naomi never heard from them again. She threw herself into her work at Harrington Global. The integration of Bradford and Associates and the other acquired firms was complex but rewarding. She traveled to different offices, met with teams, and implemented new policies and procedures. She was good at it. Better than she'd expected. The years she'd spent working at the nonprofit had taught her skills that served her well now: how to listen to people, how to solve problems creatively, how to build consensus. Combined with her business education and her understanding of the industry, she became a respected leader quickly. Philip Bradford, who'd stayed on to help with the transition, pulled her aside one day with a smile. I have to admit, when you first walked in here I was worried. I thought you were just the boss's daughter playing executive, but you've proven me wrong. You're the real deal, Naomi. You've earned everyone's respect. Thank you, Philip. That means a lot. Have you thought about what comes next? After the integration is complete? Naomi had been thinking about that. She loved the work, but she also missed the community focus of her nonprofit days. She'd been talking with her father about starting a new division at Harrington Global focused on socially responsible investing and community development. I have some ideas, she said, but I'll share them when they're more developed. The hardest part about the past 3 months hadn't been the work or the public attention. It had been facing the fact that she'd lost 3 years of her life to a relationship that was built on a lie. She'd been 28 when she married Benedict. She was 31 now, divorced and starting over. Sometimes, late at night, she wondered if she'd ever trust anyone enough to try again. If she'd ever believe someone could love her for herself and not her money or her name. Her therapist, Dr. Williams, helped her work through those feelings. Yes, she'd hired a therapist. It turned out that hiding your identity for 5 years and then having your life explode in public view was traumatic, even when you were the one who'd set off the explosion. You're grieving, Dr. Williams told her during one session. Not for Benedict or your marriage, but for the time you lost. For the version of yourself you were trying to be. That's valid. Let yourself feel it. So Naomi did. She felt angry sometimes. Sad sometimes. But mostly she felt free. 6 months after the revelation, Harrington Global held its annual charity gala. It was a massive event, with hundreds of guests, A-list entertainment, and millions of dollars raised for various causes. Naomi had attended every year as a child, then disappeared from it during her 5-year hiatus. This year she was back. And this time she wasn't hiding. She wore a stunning emerald green gown that had been her mother's. Her hair was styled in elegant curls. Her mother's diamonds sparkled at her throat and ears. When she walked into the ballroom on her father's arm, conversation stopped. "You look just like her," Thomas whispered. "Your mother would be so proud." Naomi blinked back tears. "I wish she was here." "She is. Always." The evening was magical. Naomi reconnected with old family friends. She met business leaders and philanthropists. She gave a speech about Harrington Global's new community investment initiative, which received a standing ovation. And then, during a break between speakers, she stepped out onto the terrace for some air. That's where she met Dante. He was standing at the railing looking out at the city lights. He was tall, with dark skin, kind eyes, and a smile that seemed genuine. He was also clearly uncomfortable in his tuxedo, tugging at his bow tie like it was strangling him. "First time at one of these?" Naomi asked. He laughed. "That obvious?" "Yeah, my company designed the renovations for this hotel. They insisted I come as a guest since our work is being showcased. I'm an architect, not a socialite. This isn't really my scene." "I understand that feeling. I'm Naomi." "Dante. Nice to meet you." He shook her hand and his grip was warm and firm. "So what's your story? You look like you belong here, but you sound like you'd rather be somewhere else." Naomi smiled. "It's complicated. I grew up coming to these events. Then I took a break for a while. Now I'm back and I'm still figuring out where I fit." That's refreshingly honest for a fancy party. Usually people just talk about their accomplishments and their portfolios. "Is that what people have been talking to you about?" "When they talk to me at all. Mostly I've been standing here feeling out of place." They talked for 20 minutes and it was easy. Natural. Dante told her about his architecture firm, about projects he was working on, about his passion for designing affordable housing. Naomi found herself genuinely interested, asking questions, laughing at his stories. "What do you do?" he finally asked. Naomi hesitated. This was the moment. She could be honest or deflect. With Benedict, she'd hidden the truth and it had destroyed everything. She wouldn't make that mistake again. "I work for Harrington Global Industries. I'm the executive director of operations for our investment division." Dante's eyebrows rose. "Harrington? As in Thomas Harrington? This is his event, right?" "Right. He's my father." Dante blinked. "Oh, so you're not just working there. You're part of the family." "The family?" "Yes. Is that a problem?" He thought about it then smiled. "I don't know yet. Can I buy you a coffee sometime and find out?" Naomi laughed, surprised and delighted. "You want to buy me coffee? Do you know where we are right now? A fancy party where everything is free. But I'm talking about real coffee. From a regular coffee shop. Where we can talk like normal people instead of." He gestured at the ballroom. "Whatever this is." "I'd like that," Naomi said. "I'd really like that." They exchanged numbers. When Naomi went back inside, she was smiling. Not because she thought Dante was her future or because she was ready to jump into anything serious, but because for the first time in months, she'd met someone who seemed interested in her as a person, not as a Harrington or an ex-wife or a headline. Felt like a new beginning. A real one. Over the next few months, Naomi and Dante saw each other regularly. Coffee turned into dinners. Dinners turned into walks in the park and visits to art galleries. He met Julian, who approved. He even met Thomas, who was cautiously optimistic. "He seems genuine," her father said after meeting Dante for the first time. "But I'm having him investigated anyway." "Dad, I'm protecting you. That's my job. If he's really as good as he seems, the investigation will confirm that. If he's not, I'm saving you from another Benedict." The investigation came back clean. Dante was exactly who he said he was. A successful architect from a middle-class family, no secret agenda, no hidden motives. Just a good man who happened to find Naomi interesting. By the one-year anniversary of her divorce, Naomi's life looked completely different from what it had been. She was thriving at work, launching new initiatives that combined profit with purpose. She'd reconnected with old friends and made new ones. She'd bought a house, not a penthouse this time, but a beautiful brownstone with a garden where she could plant flowers. And she was happy. Genuinely, truly happy in a way she hadn't been in years. One Sunday morning, she sat in that garden with coffee, reading the newspaper. The business section had an article about Harrington Global's latest acquisition and Naomi's role in it. The headline read, "Naomi Harrington proves she's more than just a name." She smiled, thinking about how far she'd come. From the girl who hid her identity to find love, to the woman who reclaimed her power and found herself. Her phone buzzed with a text from Dante. "Brunch at our spot? I have something I want to talk to you about." Naomi texted back, "See you in an hour." She didn't know what he wanted to talk about. Maybe their relationship. Maybe his latest project. Maybe nothing important at all. But she knew one thing for certain. Whatever came next, she was ready for it. She was Naomi Harrington. She'd survived betrayal, reclaimed her life, and built something real. And she would never let anyone make her feel small again. 1 year and 3 months after the revelation, Naomi stood in the conference room at Harrington Global, presenting her vision for the company's future to the board of directors. Community-focused investing isn't just good ethics, she explained, clicking through her presentation. It's good business. When we invest in affordable housing, local businesses, and sustainable development, we create long-term value that benefits everyone. Our returns are strong, our reputation improves, and we make a real difference in people's lives. The board members nodded approvingly. Her father sat at the head of the table looking proud. Next to him, Julian grinned at her. After the presentation, the board voted unanimously to approve Naomi's proposal. She would be heading up a new division focused entirely on socially responsible investing. It was everything she'd wanted: the resources and reach of Harrington Global combined with the mission-driven work she'd loved at the nonprofit. "You did it," Julian said, hugging her after the meeting. "Mom would be losing her mind right now. This is exactly what she always hoped Harrington Global could become." "I know," Naomi said softly. "I feel her with me every day." That evening, Dante picked her up for dinner. They'd been dating for 8 months now, taking things slow and building something real. He knew her history. She knew his. There were no secrets, no pretending, no games. He took her to a new restaurant in the neighborhood where he'd grown up. The food was amazing soul food that reminded Naomi of Sunday dinners at her grandmother's house when she was young. "So," Dante said after they'd ordered, "I have news." "Good news or bad news?" "Good news. Great news, actually. My firm just won a contract to design an entire affordable housing development. 20 buildings, over 500 units. It's the biggest project we've ever taken on." Naomi's face lit up. "Dante, that's amazing. I'm so proud of you. There's more. The development is being funded by a consortium of investors focused on community development. And guess which investment firm is managing the funding?" Naomi's eyes widened. "No. Yes. Your new division at Harrington Global. We're going to be working together." They both laughed at the coincidence. Or maybe it wasn't a coincidence. Maybe it was proof that they were both committed to the same values, the same goals. "Can we date while working on the same project?" Naomi asked. "Is that allowed?" "As long as we disclose the relationship and maintain professional boundaries during work hours, yes. I already checked with my company's ethics board. They said it's fine as long as we're transparent about it." "Transparency," Naomi said. "I like that. I'm done with secrets." After dinner, they walked along the river hand in hand. The city sparkled around them, full of life and possibility. "Can I ask you something?" Dante said. "Anything. Are you happy? Really happy? Because sometimes I see you get this look like you're somewhere else in your head. And I want to make sure this us is what you want." Naomi stopped walking and turned to face him. "I'm happier than I've been in a long time. You're right that sometimes I get lost in my head. I'm still processing everything that happened. The marriage, the divorce, the revelation. But that's not about you. That's about me healing from something that hurt me deeply. I can wait. I will wait. However long you need. I know you will. That's part of why this is different. You're patient. You're honest. You see me for who I really am, and you don't want me to be anyone else. Benedict always wanted me to be different. Smaller. Quieter. Less ambitious. You celebrate who I am. Because who you are is incredible," Dante said simply. "You're brilliant and driven and kind. Why would I want you to change that?" Naomi kissed him, there on the riverbank with the city lights reflecting off the water. It was a kiss full of promise and hope and the beginning of something real. 3 months later, Naomi was featured on the cover of Forbes magazine. The headline read, "Naomi Harrington, Redefining Corporate Responsibility." In the interview, she talked about her vision for ethical investing, her new division at Harrington Global, and her commitment to creating positive change through business. She also addressed the scandal that had made her famous. "I spent 5 years trying to find authentic love by hiding who I was," she told the interviewer. "What I learned is that authenticity can't be built on deception, even well-intentioned deception. My ex-husband couldn't love the real me because he never knew the real me. That was partly my fault for hiding and partly his fault for never bothering to look deeper. Do you regret the experience? I regret the pain. I regret the time lost. But I don't regret the lessons. I learned what I'm capable of surviving. I learned that my worth isn't determined by how others see me. And I learned that real love requires honesty, respect, and equality. I won't settle for anything less again. Are you in a relationship now? Naomi smiled. I am. And this time, I'm being completely honest about who I am from day one. It makes all the difference. 6 months after that, Dante proposed. Not at a fancy restaurant or a public event, but in Naomi's garden on a quiet Sunday morning. He got down on one knee with a ring he'd designed himself and asked if she'd marry him. Naomi said yes without hesitation. They married 6 months later in a small ceremony surrounded by family and close friends. Thomas walked her down the aisle, tears streaming down his face. Julian stood as her man of honor, beaming with pride. And Dante waited at the altar, looking at her like she was the only person in the world. The ceremony was simple but meaningful. They wrote their own vows, promising honesty, respect, and partnership. No grand declarations or flowery language. Just two people committing to build a life together based on truth. At the reception, Thomas gave a toast that made everyone cry. My daughter disappeared for 5 years because she wanted to know if someone could love her for who she was, not what she had. She found someone who loved her for the wrong reasons. But she also found herself. She rediscovered her strength, her purpose, and her power. And now she's found someone who loves her for all the right reasons. Dante, welcome to our family. Take care of her. Always, Dante promised. Years passed. Naomi's division at Harrington Global became a model for corporate responsibility. Her initiatives were copied by other companies. She spoke at conferences and universities about ethical investing and social impact. She and Dante bought a bigger house when their first child was born, a daughter they named Michelle, after Naomi's mother. 2 years later, they had a son, Thomas, after Naomi's father. Naomi's life was full in ways she'd never imagined. She had work she loved, a partner who respected her, children who brought her joy, and a family that supported her. One day, while cleaning out her office, she found an old photo from her wedding to Benedict. She looked at it for a long time, studying the face of the young woman who'd been so desperate to be loved that she'd hidden her true self. You were so brave, she whispered to that younger version of herself. You took a risk. It didn't work out the way you hoped, but you survived. You more than survived. You thrived. She threw the photo away. She didn't need it anymore. That chapter of her life was closed. As for Benedict, Naomi occasionally heard updates through mutual acquaintances. He'd moved to another city and started over in a different field. He'd never married again. His family's social standing had never fully recovered. Naomi didn't take pleasure in his struggles, but she didn't feel guilty about them either. Benedict had made his choices. He'd faced the consequences. That was life. She'd made her choices too. She'd chosen honesty over hiding, strength over submission, self-respect over the approval of people who didn't value her. And those choices had led her here, sitting in her garden on a Sunday morning, her daughter playing nearby, her son napping inside, her husband making breakfast in the kitchen. The sun was warm, the flowers were blooming, and Naomi was finally, completely, happily herself. They'd called her a gold digger. They'd said she was lucky to have Benedict. They'd mocked her for being poor and dismissed her for being beneath them. But in the end, she'd been the one with everything. Not because of money, though she had that. Not because of status, though she had that too. But because she'd learned to value herself. Because she'd refused to accept less than she deserved. Because she'd found the courage to be honest about who she was and demand that others accept her or leave. That was the real power. Not wealth or position or revenge. But self-knowledge. Self-respect, and the absolute certainty that she was enough, exactly as she was. Naomi Harrington smiled, picked up her daughter, and went inside to have breakfast with her family. The girl who'd hidden was gone. The woman who'd emerged was stronger than she'd ever imagined. And her story was just beginning.